Welcome to Live Your Dreams podcast with Maurice Mckisset, where success leaves clues and someone has your answer. Today we're going to be talking about feedback. And before we get started, I wanted to give some feedback to my son. Great job with the high definition picture. Great job with the audio, getting better and better. And I received feedback. He said, hey, you need to talk into the mic a little bit more because it will project better. So that's feedback. You need feedback to improve. Let's start with a quote. The quote says, there is no failure, only feedback. That's by Robert Allen. Robert Allen has some great books also. Now let's define feedback. Feedback is information about reactions to a product, a person's performance of a task, etc., which is used as a basis for improvement. Feedback is your friend. You want feedback. Now, 90% of communication is with myself, and that's in my humble opinion. I talk to myself all day. I give myself feedback all day. One of the things I like to share is a story. There was a story of two brothers. Both brothers lived in the same household. They had the same mother, they had the same father. But one of the brothers, they researched after years and years, and they said, hey, how did you end up like this? And his brother had the same fate as the father. And he said, well, every time my father received a problem or a difficulty or a challenge, he picked up the bottle. He didn't pick up a book. He didn't try to get a better word. He picked up the bottle. And that's how he dealt with his problems. So as I became older and problems started to come to me, I picked up a bottle. I didn't pick up a book. I didn't try to get a good word. I picked up the bottle. That's feedback. Then they went to research the other brother who was successful, doing well. And they said, how did you end up like that? And that brother said, well, growing up, I watched my father. Every time he got a problem or a difficulty, life came at him, he picked up the bottle. He didn't pick up a book. He didn't try to get a good word. He picked up the bottle. And this brother said, I didn't want my life to be like that. So what I did the opposite. Because I saw the devastating effect that it had on my father. So when problems came to me, I tried to reach out to a mentor. I tried to pick up a book. I tried to get an answer to my problem. And that's how I did it. So think about the feedback. Same circumstance, same everything. But it was the feedback that they gave to themselves. One brother received the feedback from himself and he said, hey, this is how you handle problems. My father did this. I'm going to do it. And he had the same effect as the father. Now, the other brother gave himself feedback. And he said, look, I don't want to be like my father. I saw the pain and devastation and the inadequacies that he felt. I don't want that. So when I get a problem, I'm going to try to get an answer. I'm going to try to become better so this problem won't affect me in a way where I will have to pick up a bottle. And that brother said, I want to be successful. I want to do something different. Both brothers gave themselves feedback. Now, was the feedback through the environment? Was the feedback to themselves in the subconscious? Or was it just them talking to themselves? But regardless, it was feedback. Again, in my humble opinion, 90% of the communication that I receive is with myself. So I work hard to communicate with myself properly. Now, one of the things, I had a mentor once, and this mentor once told me, I was going to Fletcher Johnson, I think maybe 87. And he said, Maurice, some of the things you're doing, you don't want to do that. Because those things lead to this. It leads to either A, B, or C. Now, being much older than I am, now that I'm older, I can see clearly what he meant. I could see clearly the feedback. But when I was in the ninth grade, I couldn't see it. But now I see the importance of feedback. So when you talk about feedback, feedback could be the example you set. You never know who's watching you. So the feedback you want to give to yourself should be proper. The examples you set. Now, I'm not perfect. I'll be the first person to tell you I'm flawed. I am a human being. But I work hard to give myself good feedback. I work hard to set the right example. And many times I fall short. But it's all about the feedback of picking yourself up, knowing that the feedback you give yourself and others are vital. It's vital. So that's one of the things when you talk about feedback, you have to realize. Now let's talk about giving feedback. Now, I'm a big proponent of receiving, and I have a wife who's not shy to give feedback. So I receive feedback a lot. So now let's talk about giving feedback a little deeper. Now, one of the things you want to do, sometimes you have to have those tough conversations with yourself and with others. It was a book I read that kind of helped me to be more direct because, I grew up where you beat around the bush a little bit. But I read a book that showed you how to be more direct. It was called Difficult Conversations. How to discuss what's most or matters most. And this is by Douglas Stone, Bruce Patton, Sheila Hing of the Harvard Negotiation Project. Now, this book helped me so much because what it allowed me to realize was that feedback is needed. And I think with the definition I said, feedback helps improvement. So sometimes you have to be direct, not only with yourself, but with others. Sometimes you have to have those difficult conversations when you're giving feedback. And sometimes you have to ask the right questions. It was also a book that I have too. I didn't bring it down, but it was a book that I had also. It talked about great leaders ask great questions. Sometimes the best feedback is by asking the right questions. So think about that also. And remember, this is about living your dreams. But sometimes living your dreams, you have to have difficult conversations. To live your dreams, sometimes you have to be very direct. To live your dreams, you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. Your yes has to be yes, and your no has to be no. And sometimes that's very uncomfortable. When you talk about living your dreams, you have to be uncomfortable. You have to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And I tell myself that every day because I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. It's 7.9 billion people on this planet. And the news flash is that everybody's not going to agree with you, right? But with 7.9 people on this planet, and over half of those individuals have access to the internet, I know for a fact you will be able to connect and relate with a large portion of the individuals on this planet, right? So that's why you have to give feedback. One of the things I really appreciate, and I told you I had plenty of mentors, plenty. And I'm able to live my dreams today because I had people who cared, people who gave me feedback, people who gave me things to make me think. And I said, oh, now I see. And that's one of the things that kind of helped me with my life, and that helped me live my dreams. So one of the things I would encourage each and every one of you, give some feedback to yourself, right? Now, I wouldn't say push your opinion on anyone else. And that's what I'm not trying to do, push your opinion on anyone. So feedback is your friend. So one of the things I try to ensure when I do this is that you get something from it. And again, consistency is the key. So one of the things I always try to enlighten people with is to be, transparent as possible. One of my mentors was very transparent. And it made life livable. It didn't seem like life was something you can't achieve. Being transparent helps someone. So you can see my flaws, and maybe through my flaws or strengths, it can help you out. All right, so let's close with a quote. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. That's Ken Blanchard. I love Ken Blanchard. I read a lot of his books. But feedback is the breakfast of champions. I agree. Without feedback, how can you improve? How can you get better? So feedback is your friend. And as always, if you enjoyed the podcast, you should support that which supports you. Subscribe, like, share. And if you do, again, I'll see you. And yes, I do mean you. Living your dreams. Peace.